Yes, so our panel is Why Study AI, and we've got some of the brilliant University College London students joining us now. And Tom's going to interrogate them. No, Tom's going to have a chat with them. So I'm going to hand over to you, Tom, and I'm going to stop my videos so that I don't pop up and interfere with your conversation.
No, that's great. And thank you, Sam. Thanks very much. And thanks to Rob. What an inspiring talk that was. And hopefully after our panel session this afternoon, you'll see that the future of AI is in the hands of at least 6 girls who've got something to say about AI and the future of that as well. So welcome to the Why Study Machine Learning and AI panel. If you attended this event last year, some of you may have attended the event or heard about the event we did last year. Last year we did a panel which was very much geared around girls and boys who were in interesting roles in Cisco and UCL that required them to have a background in machine learning and AI. And that was really to highlight to people like yourselves what cool jobs there were, what interesting jobs there were across the spectrum, really. If you've kind of got a base in machine learning, AI and maths as well. But today we've decided to go back a stage and really get a group of very bright and intelligent students from UCL. So we've got 6 girls who are all studying AI and machine learning and related topics, really to find out how they have got here so far. So I'm delighted to welcome 6 students from UCL: Siki, Sakina, Jessica, Athena, Tandy and Mira, and they'll introduce themselves in a second. My name is Tom Lean. I'm from Cisco. I'm from our CTO office. We look at the adoption and hopefully the early adoption of all new and emerging technologies that are relevant to Cisco, and AI and machine learning in many ways is one of those. And we also look at things like 5G and the future of wireless, things like Wi-Fi 6 that some of you may have heard of. But before we sort of dive off there, I want to give the girls a chance to introduce themselves. So I'll go through them all. I hope they're all on the call. I can see most of them, but I just want to make sure that they're all here. So they'll do an introduction and then they're going to just give you a bit of an insight into what they're studying and actually what they studied at school as well. So you'll hear some of them did sort of A-levels, some of them have done diplomas, some of them have done IB and various other things. But just to give you a sort of sense of how they got to the point they're at now. So I'll go in a particular order. So we're going to start with Siki. Do you want to do a quick introduction?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, great. So hi everyone. I'm of undergraduate study at UCL. I'm studying computer science, and I didn't do A level when I was in high school. I did get my high school diploma in my home country, China, which is also where I'm currently based at. And also, so when I was in high school, I did physics and biology, and then I went to King's College London for my foundation program, and I did computer science and engineering.
Thank you, Siki. And then we'll go to Sakina. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello. My name's Sakina. I'm currently doing my master's in machine learning at UCL. So beforehand, I did my undergraduate in physics at the University of Nottingham. And my A-levels, I also studied in London, and my A-levels were maths, physics, and philosophy and ethics.
Thank you, Sakina. We'll go now to Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jess. I just finished my final year of a 4-year master's at UCL in computer science with a year in industry, which I actually did at Cisco. And before that, I studied maths, further maths, computing and chemistry for A-levels in sixth form.
Thank you, Jess. And Athena?
Yep. Hello, everybody. I'm Athena. I am a first-year student at UCL doing electrical and electronic engineering. I didn't do A-levels, I did European Baccalaureate. And for that, I did math, further math, physics, and chemistry.
Thanks, Athena. Thank you for that. And Tandy?
Hi everyone, I'm Tandy. I'm a fourth year physics student, so I've just finished my integrated masters in physics. For A levels, I studied maths, further maths, physics, and chemistry. Yeah.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Mira.
Yeah, hi guys. So my name is Mira or Maya. You can call me either. So I'm doing management science right now as an undergraduate at UCL, which is kind of a business-based course, but it has a bit of engineering as well. And so I did maths, geography, philosophy, and ethics for A level.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. That's a great set of introductions. So we're going to go through 5 or 6 questions, which I'm going to put to the panel. And we'll give each of them a chance to answer those. We may go to sort of 3 or 4 depending on time, but we wanted to allow a little bit of time for the audience to ask some questions at the end, hopefully as well. With no further ado, we'll dive straight into the first question. I guess question 1 from me is to Siki, and then we'll go to Sakina and then Jessica. But what made you realise you wanted to study machine learning and AI in the first place? So, Siki, do you want to go first?
Sure. So for me, it's like it's the moment when I watched the movie Iron Man. So you must all know the voice assistant of Tony Stark. So his name is Jarvis, and I think I just thought it's really cool. So the idea that what if I can program a Jarvis into real life? So it must be very cool. And this is just like the moment that I realized what really inspires me, what really gives me the motivation to keep on going in my pathway. And also I have like another experience. So it's like about 2 years ago, and when I was struggling getting my driving lessons. Yeah, so because I really at that time I don't know how to switch the stick and how to like pull your car into a parking seat, and that's I don't know why, but it's very hard for me. And then also at that time, like the self-driving topic is very like freshing and very hot, and so then I think, what if I can in the future I can work in like a place that really kept me stuck at this moment. What if I can do some research in autonomous vehicle, and so that I can not only make myself a relief, but also to help others who may have the same issue with me. And also then after some like reading and search online, I find that self-driving technologies not only like can help those who may have trouble driving, but also it may even give more mobility to, for example, the elderly or those with maybe physical disabilities. So I think it's kind of very meaningful for me as a career choice. Yeah, and that's the 2 moments.
Thanks,
And I
Siki.
really believe, yeah.
That's a really cool set of answers, and I love the film one actually, and I love the self-driving car one as well. Sakina, do you want to give us your thoughts?
Yeah, so what made me want to study AI was that when I realized that how applicable it is to different subjects and different areas. So I don't like, I guess, being limited in what I could do after. Something like law, if you go after, you kind of have to do law. Otherwise, you have to completely change. But for me, I think AI is so applicable into anything I'd want to study, be it climate change, medicine, or something else. And so when I realized that, I knew that's what I wanted to study.
No, I like that as
A
well.
lot shorter than TTs, but yeah.
No, it's a sort of platform across anything, so it doesn't limit
Yeah.
your options at all,
Yeah.
which I totally agree with as well. Jess, do you want to give us your thoughts?
Yeah, certainly. I always thought AI was cool. It was kind of on my radar. Like a lot of tech, it is applicable to anything. But after reading Super Intelligence by Nick Bostrom, it's a bit of a heavy book, but I definitely recommend it. It touches upon the long future of AI. So not just the immediate applications, but what the world could look like in, say, 50, 100 years or after an intelligence explosion. So really interesting book, and that kind of gave me the inspiration to study it further.
Good stuff. And lastly, Athena.
Yeah, so mine is pretty similar with Ziki, because Jarvis was really like fascinating to me as well when I was young and watched the movie. But I remember like some of my friends having those like little robots, and I always used to be scared of them, because I was really young and they were like moving on their own. But then, because that always like was in my mind, and after a couple of years, like learned a bit more about how like this robots work. That really made me wanna study more on that. Yeah.
No, it's good. I like the fact you're all inspired by films. I mean, being a lot older than any of you guys, it's just grown up around me, and I still get a lot of fun and a lot of excitement out of just shouting at my Apple speaker and getting an unbelievable set of answers. Sometimes what I want to hear, and sometimes completely random, I have to say, frankly. But I love that. Okay, so next question. What interests you most about AI and machine learning? And we'll start this time with Sakina.
Yeah, so my particular interests are its roles in charities, like government roles, non-profits, and also in education. Because I think that AI could really have a good role in benefiting society in that way. That's a little bit different to what it's mainly used now in kind of products and business. And I find it interesting because I think that if this is done correctly, it will be very, very good for society in a different way than it's been doing now. And I do think it's a bit neglected in research at the moment. So that's what I'm interested in.
So more the AI for good, which I know is a big thing for UCL as well. Anything you've seen particularly that you like in that area?
So I'm interested in like the fairness aspect. So I think in the last presentation, the presenter was talking about Timnit Gebru. So it's a similar field that she's actually working on that I'm also interested in. Yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff. That's good stuff, because sometimes everyone thinks about the dark side of AI as well. So next question, the question to Athena next as well.
Yeah, so I'm really interested in robotics in general, and how like you can, using simple AI techniques, you can build like something that can think kind of like a human, but can also do stuff that a human can do. For example, if we have to work in radioactive atmospheres, or something requires like really like physical strength, and a human wouldn't be able to do that. But yeah, the fact that you can build something that can do that job, it's really fascinating.
No, again, I think that's a good area, because people always focus on the fact that AI might take jobs away completely, but actually what it's going to do is enable people to keep away from the dangerous jobs, the dirty jobs, and the boring jobs. That's how I always hear about it and think about it, and hopefully enable people to get into the more interesting stuff. But that's a great spark to have. Tandy, what about you? What interests you about AI?
Yeah, so my particular interest is kind of using AI to aid scientific discovery. So I feel like definitely this year we've all been made like more aware about how important health is, and a lot of AI is used in they're aiming to use it more in like drug discovery to kind of speed up the iteration process of like making the molecules and kind of testing them. So I think that's kind of really exciting, and especially in general, we're all living longer. So it's kind of good to have tools to help us hopefully age in a more graceful and healthier way going into the future.
No, that's a good area. I love the fact everybody's different actually in this as well. It's really, really good, because I think if we've learned nothing else the last 18 months, the importance of that in being able to get to things faster, quicker, better. There's no better direction that AI could be thrown actually, frankly, and you're definitely in the right place for sort of leveraging that, I guess, with what you do around UCL at the moment. So Mira, do you want to just give us your thoughts as well?
Yeah, so I have to kind of split it into two parts. So obviously I'm studying management, so I'm going to go down like the traditional route as well. But it's, you know, it's really useful in thinking about consumer behavior, things like how we can predict consumer behavior, also in just recommendation engines, etc. There's just a lot of things just in my field in management where it's really useful. But then on the other end, I'm really interested personally in kind of digital-based arts, and a lot of people don't realize how much machine learning and AI goes into the kind of the engines that you use to make things like movies and video games and digital arts and stuff like that. So it can cut out a lot of the work that it would have taken someone, you know, hours to do. It can do it in a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes, and it can really kind of democratize the digital arts side of things. So where previously you might have to have like a couple, like a big team of people in Hollywood to make a movie, you know, in the future with things like Blender and stuff and all of the AI models behind it, we might be able to have just like one person with an idea just make something, you know, on their computer, and I think that's super exciting.
Yeah, Tom Cruise might disagree with you because he likes doing everything himself and doesn't like seeing all that sort of technology coming into play. But I get where you're coming from. I think the next question's to you first anyway. But it's and I've already got a sense of what you're going to say. But what are you most excited about with AI? If you take that what you've just said a stage further.
Yeah, so yeah, I am, as I've already kind of said, really excited about kind of the democratization of loads of different fields that AI can kind of bring. So obviously we know that AI can kind of cut down on the amount of time that it takes for people to do things, which just kind of like opens up a lot of fields, especially, you know, from my side in terms of the digital based arts. So just to give like a little example, in terms of green screens. So previously that would take someone, you know, a couple of hours to outline someone in terms of like cutting out the background, even if you have like a really good green screen. Right now, there are already really good ML models that can just cut out the background without any kind of green screen. They will just, you know, completely reduce the amount of time. And that's just across kind of the sector. There's a lot of, you know, a lot of innovations that are happening that can really, you know, bring that out. Yeah, and then apart from that, just I think we were talking about the good that the AI can do within society. So, you know, with autonomous vehicles, we can kind of massively cut down on the amount of deaths that happen in the road because a lot of those are due to human error. So that's kind of another side that it can be used for so much good, apart from just like my interests in terms of creative things. Like it can be used for so much good in the world.
Good stuff. Good answer as well. Sakina, what about you? What excites you about AI and machine learning?
Yeah, so I do think that AI is kind of the next revolution in society in the similar way that the Industrial Revolution was. And I think that like very near in the future, and is even happening now, AI will be making amazing scientific discoveries. I think even DeepMind, it was either earlier this year or at the end of last year, they made a very big discovery about DNA. So in that sense, it's going to be a scientific revolution. It's going to be a work revolution, and it's very exciting, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've spoken to David Barber a few times at UCL, who you guys may know pretty well. And actually, what Rob was saying earlier, that you know, in some ways, you think we're quite a long way into the journey of seeing AI and machine learning being deployed and used and coming out in different solutions and ideas. But David always stresses to me that it's, you know, we're right at the start really, and it's still very, very much the beginning, which I think is both exciting and quite scary as well from my perspective. But I'm sure that you know, we're all kind of trying to envisage what that long-term future might be. So, Siki, what about you? What excites you about AI and machine learning? I think we got a hint of that earlier.
Yeah, and other than that, also like the notion of artificial intelligence is like that. So it's like a black box, so you don't really need to know how things work, like the theory behind it. You only like need to find a way to simulate the strategy that the machine should know to get the right answer, to find somewhat the rules behind one particular questions. So that is sounds very amazing, you know. So sometimes the machine can even like solve some problems, like the dream things, like we don't know the theory but we can get the answer. But also it have a wrong side of this, because since we don't know the process how the AI knows the answer, so we also don't know, like for example, some risk. And also we don't know the theory that can push forward our science development. Yeah, this is another thing, but it's also very exciting, right? And also another thing is that AI, just as Sakina said before, like it's applicable basically to every areas. So whatever your interest lies in, you can always find like a way to do some research or do your career regarding to artificial intelligence.
Good stuff. And on this particular question, last but not least, Jess. I mean, you said I think I heard you earlier say you'd spent a year with Cisco as well. So maybe you saw something of the technology in Cisco that excited you as well. But just what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I saw a lot of cool stuff in Cisco, but I'm not sure how much of it I can mention because it was R&D. But a lot of exciting stuff is going on.
Don't get me in trouble.
Well, yeah, a lot of driving autonomous vehicle stuff was I saw on my end, which was very cool. But in particular, yeah, I think I'm really interested in the insight, like Sakina mentioned and Tandy mentioned, with drug discovery. At the moment, you know, we're beginning to touch on AI being able to answer hard questions, but soon AI can even begin to pose questions we can't even comprehend yet and provide answers to those. So yeah, the fact that it could be smarter than us in fields that we don't use it for yet, I think that would, or not at such a high level, that's going to be really interesting and really exciting.
Good stuff. Okay, question 4 then. And this is to Tandy first of all. Why should people in the audience care about AI? So, you know, we've got a number of girls in the audience and a wider audience as well listening in. So some of them are thinking about, you know, the next stage of their studies. Some of them, I guess people that have been taking part in the event. Why should people care about AI?
Okay. Well, I think currently AI is kind of infiltrating kind of areas of our lives that we probably don't even notice. So I'm sure everyone here uses Instagram, probably the most popular social media. When we go on our explore page, mine would not look the same as yours. The contents of mine are going to be like specific to me. So these recommender systems, they're part of AI. The same with YouTube, your kind of homepage recommending personalized content. So I feel like because it is so ubiquitous or becoming more ubiquitous in areas of our lives, it's really good to kind of understand the technology behind the apps and the websites and things that we interact with. And I also think more jobs in the future are going to involve AI or even data science, which is kind of like a subset of AI to a different degree. So when I was starting off in my first year and looking at internships, it was more skewed towards software engineering more than anything. But in my 4th year, when I've been helping some people look for internships, a lot more are coming up around AI as more applications are happening. So in the short 4 years that I've been doing my degree, I've seen kind of internships and roles that weren't available when I started. So I'm pretty sure that this trend is going to continue. So having like an awareness of the technology for your own self-interest, just to like understand a little bit about how it works and going into the future, I think is quite important. Yeah.
So sort of knowing that they've got the grounding with something a little bit, they can just put a little bit more on top of that, and some of these jobs that most people may not have even known that these jobs existed would be opportunities for them, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Like when I started, I had maths and physics, so just kind of the general machinery, but I hadn't put it together into machine learning yet. You probably know more than you realize. You know, matrices, vector algebra, all of that. It's going to be things that you've covered in your A levels. You just haven't applied them in the AI context yet. But the leap from kind of STEM maths knowledge to kind of machine learning and AI is not as massive as you may feel at first.
No, I'm glad you said that, and I wanted to get other people's thoughts on that when they answer the question, because I think it's you know, it's an important point that the grounding's there. The tech part, the extra part is quite easy to actually learn, and then suddenly this whole new world is kind of open to you if you didn't know about it. So hence why we're doing today in some respects. So Good stuff. Jess, what about your thoughts around this? And you've already worked within or been to an organisation like Cisco, so what do you think about
that? Also, just to touch upon the last point, I think it is so important, even if you don't end up studying AI fully, that once you have those transferable skills or the knowledge in that section, you can also, get the AI knowledge alongside it and apply it there, if that makes sense. I think it's very important to have people who are experts in both. Sorry, not to go off on a tangent. But yeah, I think it's very important that we have a range of people working on AI, to reduce discrimination and to reduce the bias and just reflecting all the issues we have in society today. As long as we have relatively basic systems, they're just learning from the data we provide. And if we have data that is biased in a certain way or reflects values that we may not hold but exist within society, those are going to be reflected in the outcomes. So unless people speak up or are there to pick up on those errors, they're just going to be propagated in the AI that we develop. So it's important to kind of avoid those errors and avoid kind of misaligned AI in the future.
No, that's good. And I think, the diversity you talk about, just having you six on this call actually has highlighted that you're all kind of interested in different areas, which has become evident from the very start of the discussion. So that's a very good point. And yes, there are kind of bad actors in this world, and hopefully the good will overcome the bad in terms of what we're doing, especially as we get more and more people involved. Good stuff. Siki, what should people in the audience care about with regards to AI from your point of view?
First of all, I want to say I totally agree with what Tandy and Jess said before. Like, the first thing is, like, AI will promisingly play a big role in our daily lives in the future, no matter it's 10 years or 20 years or 100 years. Like, finally it will dramatically impact the way the society work. So the first thing is that we should at least know the basic stuff of artificial intelligence so that you can tackle those changes in the future. And the next thing is also about the ethics of artificial intelligence. So as these technology become more and more popular, there are more discussions on the ethics of this area, because the results, sometimes the results AI get will reflect some discrimination in our society or some bias that we may even not pay too much attention before. But when it happens on the machine, you may finally realize how unreasonable it is. And also with the benefit of utilizing this technology, sometimes it may also give you some maybe drawbacks. But at least you need to know about it and you need to care about it because it's all related to your daily lives.
No, I think that's a great point. Go on.
Sorry.
You go.
So one thing to add, so about the Instagram thing, so it really happens, right? Like when we are even when we are scrolling down some apps, for example Instagram, for example TikTok, you may find that the apps will give you more recommendation on the things that you are interested in, and then finally you find that others can easily learn what your personalities or your preference just by looking at all of your apps on your phone. So and we all need to pay attention to that, because if we keep doing this, then the way we see the world may be limited to some perspective. And I think it's another important thing nowadays, because
it's a valid point. Just some appreciation of the technology will give you a better understanding of why those sort of things happen and what's actually happening around your profile and things like that. No, it's a very good point. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. I'm just conscious of time and allowing some questions from the audience. So Sakina, I'm going to come to you, and the question is, it's really about the future actually. So, you know, how do you see the kind of, I guess, near-term future from your point of view in terms of using the skills that you're learning in this area?
Yeah, so I think, as I already kind of said, I want to be in the AI for social good space, be it government, research, whatever. I guess my two options at the moment are working government in either like statistical service and working on deciding what policies could work and what couldn't to benefit people, and then also maybe doing a PhD or something like that in fairness and equity and like justice, and kind of putting those concepts of justice into and integrating them into machine learning. That's for me, yeah.
Well, maybe both in parallel.
Yeah,
like
maybe.
So, okay, Office of Ethics, better watch out, or the Office of AI, better watch out, because you're coming. Right, Jess, what about you? How do you see your near-term use of the skills you're learning?
So I'm looking a lot into the use of AI and machine learning for social good. So obviously there are countless social good causes, but if you can take something like climate change, there are a million questions that we can answer that we're not really yet focusing on, like what's the most effective way to reduce pollution? You know, where can we make changes? Even when it comes to advising policies, like Sakina said, you need that kind of those answers to the questions. So trying to get the answers using ML in order to help those causes.
Good stuff. That's a good answer. And Athena, what about from your point of view?
Yeah, so it's a bit like Jess just said, really using ML and how we can like build certain like machinery or something useful, something practical that can do, you know, the jobs that we can't really do, as I mentioned before. So yeah, really working on something that can be practical and have like a practical kind of thing. Yeah.
So this is all for the good. This is all on the good side of the equation. So the future is sounding a lot safer in your hands. What about Mira?
Yeah, I actually gonna differ a bit. I think the most like in the kind of short term, I'm most excited about just making like small projects that are just, you know, interesting, less about, you know, practicality, but more about just how can we kind of push forward and do something that's super cool. Like, can we use the like Alexas right now, and can we, you know, change them a bit to make them like do some other kind of function, just like projects that actually involve like AI and also more mechanical electrical things. So that kind of thing, just like small kind of projects, you know, that kind of stuff.
And you're doing the slightly management piece as well, aren't you, on this? So where do you see that part in the
So
future for you?
on the management side, yeah, for sure. So my course was kind of specifically made to kind of think about in the future, like what will managers and people within business be using. And so that's kind of the reason why we have like a very good foundation in machine learning, in data science. So we're looking at, because, you know, obviously the future in business has a lot of big data. So just looking at how we can kind of use that data, analyze that data to, you know, our best abilities, what can we do with it, that kind of thing. So yeah, for certain, anyone in the audience, even if you're not thinking about going specifically into like a technical role, just in, because, you know, I'm a business student, I do have the technical background because it's still within engineering, but it's just so useful in terms of like going into the new age where there's so much data. Like there's going to be so many roles where you're going to have to understand data and analyze it, and that's kind of where machine learning comes in, and that's where machine learning comes in within my degree. So yeah.
No, so very valid points, and interesting actually, because last year when we did the career version of this, we had people from kind of marketing. I think people were quite surprised that, you know, the amount of this sort of technology used in marketing, competitive analysis, market opportunity analysis, things like that. And then on the other end of the spectrum, perhaps where people would expect us to be doing things, particularly a company like Cisco's, around kind of cyber threat intelligence, understanding, you know, the bad actors, if you like, that are, you know, and the bad things that are going on around the internet, etc. And then the obvious stuff in the middle around kind of, you know, development, research, and those types of things in a tech kind of setting. But
Yeah.
good stuff. So the very last question, then we'll go to the audience, is just what one bit of advice you'd give to anyone thinking about studying AI or machine learning who's in the audience today. We'll start with Siki.
So basically I have several advice about how to start learning AI. So the first thing is that as you've heard, AI is very related to mathematics and algorithms. So just make sure try your best to study math when you are in high school. And also the second thing is AI will not be as hard as it is heard. So it's sometimes at the early stage you can just regard it as something applicable in reality, and then you can just try to start doing some AI model by yourself before you enter the university. There may be some AI API you can use online. There are a lot of resources online you can use, and also
so basically immerse yourself in some AI before you even start thinking about studying it.
Yeah.
Okay, Siki, I'm gonna move on to the next person just because of time. So Sakina, what about you? What one bit of advice would you give to anyone in the audience?
Yeah, so I agree with Suchi about the math side of it. The math side is very important to really understand what's going on. But then I guess my other main bit of advice would be don't feel discouraged if you feel like you don't fit in, because AI and computer science it's probably one of the least diverse fields to go into. And it's quite easy to feel like you don't fit in, and therefore you get imposter syndrome and you kind of don't want to be there. But it's good to think of it in a different way, that because you're different, you're bringing something different, and that's what the field needs. It needs different perspectives and different people working on the subject. Otherwise, we're just going to have the same thing all the time, which we don't want.
That's a superb bit of advice, Sakina. Thank you for that. That's a really good point. Jess, what about you?
I'd say if you want to get hands-on, if you have a little bit of coding experience, there's a lot of accessible things out there, and you can just try, some pet projects, and it's surprising how much you can do with very little experience. There's a lot of courses out there that are very beginner friendly. It can seem very daunting, and it can seem like you need to have this wealth of prior knowledge, but there's a lot that can help you out. So yeah, just kind of get stuck in and don't worry about if you mess up. No one's going to see it. It's just on your laptop anyway. So.
Good stuff. Tandy?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if this is like year 12 or year 13, but my piece of advice would be if you've already chosen kind of a university degree and it's not specifically computer science, but you're still interested in AI and machine learning, you don't have to worry about that so much, because a lot of the maths, a lot of the kind of core components of all STEM degrees will allow you to kind of have the background you need to make a transition into machine learning. So I think Sakina did a bachelor's in physics. I'm doing a physics degree. So yeah, you don't have to, there's not one degree that can lead you to a career in machine learning and AI. There are many different paths that you can take. But yeah, if you can just try and tailor your modules maybe and pick them so that they fit your interests. But yeah, don't worry too much if you haven't gone directly into computer science. There's always a way to make things work. Yeah.
And Mira, what about you? Last bit of advice? I think you're on mute.
Yes, I was. That's typical me. Right. So what I would say is you know, because a lot of people were talking about, obviously it can get really daunting. So what I would say is like kind of pick an application and go from the application backwards. That can be for a lot of people kind of a lot more engaging. So if you're specifically interested in an AI application, one thing, if you kind of look up tutorials for how to do that specific thing, you will then be able to apply a lot of those skills to other things that you may be interested in. Like along the line. And I think just project-based learning in general is kind of a way to go down for a lot of people. So don't get too kind of bogged down if you're kind of struggling with a lot of the concepts if you try to just study machine learning. Instead, kind of you could try going down the route of, you know, picking an application, finding a tutorial for that specific application, and then learning it, and then you'll be able to apply that.
That's good. And Athena, I can't remember, did I ask you, apologies, I didn't ask you this question either. So any last advice from you?
Yeah, so basically just like Google stuff. I know it sounds like a bit stupid, but honestly just like Google and see what you, because AI is just such a broad term. So just try and search what you're like interested in. But as everybody's mentioned, like not just looking at them and be like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting, but actually you know, try it out, you know, do some coding, do some math and see if that's what you really like doing. And yeah, Sandy said, it's not, you know, you're not limited to studying computer science. I had the dilemma myself, and yeah, I'm happy with my course now.
No, that's good. That's good. So immerse yourself in it by immersing yourself in Google as well. Why not? Good advice. So I think we've got time for at least one question. So I can see a question on the chat from Markova, I think it is, or Poli Markova. So the question is, and some of you've answered this to a degree, but it's worth at least highlighting the point, is did you have any prior knowledge of computing? And if so, how did you come about it? In other words, you know, you come mostly, a lot of you, from sort of science, maths type background when you were studying at school. How kind of computer literate did you feel you were at the time? And did any of you come with no kind of computer knowledge particularly to end up where you are now? I guess Athena, I'm talking to you at the moment. So is that, how would you answer that?
So before starting university, I did some programming courses, and it didn't really matter like what language it was. For example, I did C++, but I feel like if you just get the logic of programming, that will be fine. And we had one programming course in our year, and there were many people that didn't have like any connection with programming before, and they did just fine. But it will always be helpful to just do like a small summer course, you know, spend some time on it, and you know, it will just be helpful. You know, it's not obligatory, but it's going to be helpful at all times. Good
answer. Another question is, because you're all studying AI or machine learning to some degree, but how easy, and I guess I know the answer to this because you're at UCL, but how easy is it to link to other courses and other topics and subjects not related directly to computer science? So in other words, applying it, because I think quite a few of you have talked about that, but how easy is it for you to do that at university? Shall we go to Jess? Do you want to have a go at that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely applicable. Like if you have any knowledge in any other subject, you can definitely just find some model that can help you translate that into AI. So this year I had a bioinformatics module, and they essentially did like no coverage of the tech side, just introducing all of us, the techie people, to the biology concepts, and we just translated those into models to use on real data, which is very interesting. So yeah, it's definitely doable.
And Mira, do you want to have a crack at that as well? Because you're sort of doing two topics. I just thought maybe you'd have a perspective on that as well.
So could you specify the question just very quickly again?
Yeah. It was the question was really about how easy is it at university to link studying AI with kind of a topic that's, you know, another topic that's nothing to do with kind of computer science.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's because, as I was saying, it's super applicable. So yeah, on my course, which is management science. So just to kind of give a background, a lot of people on my course, they'll go into like a variety of things, either like consulting or banking or even data science. So it's like really widespread. It's the kind of thing, but yeah, so you can kind of link it to a lot of those things. So whether it's, if you want to go into banking, like a massive thing, you know, if you can make models to kind of predict the future of like the stock market, whether you want to go into marketing marketing, like it's a huge thing as well to kind of predict consumer behavior and that kind of thing. So it's definitely something that you can very easily link. And I think that my course is definitely, you know, an example of that, because it's such a kind of a wide course in terms of the fields that people who graduate from our course go into. But we still have like this, a lot of our kind of modules are based on kind of thinking about machine learning and data science, and you know, trying to understand those, you know, from the ground up. So not just at a very kind of basic level. And it's for that reason that we kind of learn those things, because it's just so applicable to loads of different things, and it's just so useful in so many different fields. I hope that answered that question.
No, it's good. It's a good answer. Good answer. So look, guys, I think we're up on time. I think Sam is going to be knocking on the virtual door any minute, telling me that I've overrun again. So first, before she does that, I'd just like to first of all thank all 6 of you on behalf of me and on behalf of the audience and Cisco and UCL. You were excellent. You were fantastic. So thank you for taking the trouble and being really honest with your answers, and such a diverse set of answers as well, which was absolutely brilliant. To Rob's presentation earlier, I think the future of this area is in good hands, and that the graph on that he showed that had slightly dipped off is going to head off in the right direction. And hopefully in some way you guys have gone to inspire, you know, the next generation of girls that are going to break into this topic. So thank you for taking the trouble to come and talk to us all today. Really enjoyed the discussion, and maybe we'll bump into each other at UCL when we're all allowed out again. But wish you well with the rest of your studies, and you know, hope to see you at Cisco again soon in some shape or form.